Great. We're back. So to follow up on that question, Tim, or that topic. So all of these little tools for creating constraints. And I love that in your work in general, you create a lot of constraints which actually give you more freedom. I mean, it's a big part of the work that you do. And I think it's when somebody understands the importance of constraints, there's a lot more opportunity that they can take advantage of. Okay, now, with that said, when it comes to food, you might say, well, I'm going to take a picture of everything, that I'm going to eat, until you decide, fuck it, I'm not going to take that picture anymore, because the desire to eat outweighs the desire to take the picture. So what I'd love to know is what did you come across, what kind of research, if any, did you come across in your time working on this book, or in your history, as it relates to the psychological addiction that food creates, and then also, even more importantly, the chemical addiction? Because you talk so much about how food affects the body, but what about the brain?
Sure.
Okay.
So there's a lot of research here, and some people may not be aware, but my first major at Princeton was neuroscience, so I looked very closely at many studies, and a majority of which involved feeding of some type. So looking at feeding response, or looking at drug response. And what you find in humans, at least, and is that you start with this, in many cases, it starts with a psychological substitute. So whether they quit smoking, or they're compensating for the elimination of some activity or the presence of something undesirable when they then eat. And that then develop, let's say, insulin insensitivity, and you are affecting your hormones in such a way that even if you eat 2,000 calories at a meal, you're still hungry. Your hypothalamus and other things aren't working properly, and you still feel like you need to eat. So now you've gone from psychological to physical dependency in some cases. So there are a few ways, I think. So that's the problem. We could talk about the intricacies of the problem for a very long time.
And one question I just want to ask, and you can address it in a minute, but I just want to throw it out there, is whether that binge, that cheat, can reactivate that chemical addiction that people may develop.
So this is a good question, and I'll answer that one first, actually. So the answer is it could. And in some cases it does, but in 90 plus cases out of 100, it helps. And the reason is that if someone has a physical dependency and a psychological dependency, humans are very, very smart. So they'll find different ways to rationalize that, whether it's partially or fully. And one of the ways that's done is, life is meant to be enjoyed. I want to eat. I don't want to spend the rest of my life eating plates full of seeds, which is not what I recommend at all. You can eat a lot of amazing. I live in San Francisco. I go out to eat 2 times a day and get amazing food. It's not limited to San Francisco. It's pretty easy. But they're like, I don't want to eat plates and God knows what other sprouts all the rest of my life. I want to enjoy things, so I want to eat these foods. Okay, and that's the reasoning that they use. Or it's important to my culture, it's important to my family that I have pasta 2 times a day. Or if I'm Asian, I have to eat rice. Whatever it might be. And by making the commitment to yourself that you're only going to forego these things for 6 days, you give yourself permission to make those behavioral changes. Now, there are a few very important things to notice here, or to take note of. The first is that reward is not very effective. All right, so now the binge day is a reward, but I highly recommend people use the stick, which is not very popular in American culture. And what I mean by that is use guilt, use humiliation. These things work really well. And if you look at the studies that have done, clinical studies, loss aversion works. So if you want to make someone overbid on auction items, it's not so they can gain $100. You say, here, we're going to give you $100, and now you have to not lose it. All right, so what I would highly recommend people do is find someone to keep you accountable, and you keep that person accountable as well. It can be very simple. Trevor, one of the guys in the book, who dropped 50-plus pounds and now is running marathons, he was very overweight, and he started betting a friend of his $1 at each workout. And if either of them missed the workout, they had to pay the other person $1. That's it. And these are people who make a lot of money. So it wasn't the actual dollar amount. And that ended up making the difference. And I encourage people to use things like that. Or let's say I had another friend, a very skinny Indian friend, who wanted to gain weight. And he ended up gaining, I think it was 15 pounds in something like 6 weeks. And the reason it happened is he created a wiki page, very easy to do. It could just be an email, but he created a wiki page, and every week he had to send his weight update to a handful of friends, and they could respond back, and a lot of shit talking went on.
Yeah. I enjoyed that in the book. All his little, when he was bragging and egging people on, it was really fun to read. Yeah.
Oh yeah, and the fact of the matter is it works, and so. What I wanted to figure out first and foremost for everything in this book is what has been proven to work. Let's not reinvent the wheel here. So if you look at the physical transformation challenges over the last 10 years or so, like Body for Life, which was hugely successful, you find that people train different ways, people ate different ways, but one of the commonalities among almost all of the winners was they had before photographs, and they used those before photographs, whether they put it on their refrigerator or put it in their wallet, something like that. It was a constant reminder to comply to their changes. And that is important. And the other thing I would say about people who say, yeah, you know what, like I'm sick of taking photographs of my food, I want to just go back to eating, is that the pain has to be painful enough. So there's a right time to make these changes, and there is a wrong time. And if the pain isn't painful enough, you are going to quit. So the trick is making it as painful as possible. And one of the ways to do that is to take before photographs. I mean, because most people are like, I have a few pounds to lose, but it's not that bad. And then you get in some really harsh lighting and take a photograph with like this with your shirt off, and you're like, oh my God, that's what I look like? Okay, I'm getting my ass on a treadmill tomorrow morning now. And I've been there. People think I've always been thin. That's not true. I mean, I weigh about 170 pounds now. I'm doing a lot of strength training. I've been well over 200, and I actually have a photograph that I put on my Flickr page of me, and the caption I used was "I love peanut butter and jelly sandwiches," because my head was about this big, looked like the Michelin Man. So I know what it's like. I mean, I come from a family that likes to overeat, and I know what it's like. But you can set yourself up with very simple psychological tweaks to ensure compliance in most cases, but you do have to experiment. Each person is individual.
Yeah, in a way, writing a book like this is the ultimate constraint. You have to be superhuman forever now because this book is out.
I know, which is a good thing for me.
Yeah.
So the 4-hour work week, same thing. I can't pull out my laptop in public. People take photographs of me and put it on Twitter and be like, he's working, even though I'm watching YouTube.
Because, Tim, that's like the first thing I have to defend about you anytime. So, Tim Ferriss' name comes up and I go, oh, yeah, Tim's a really good guy. I go, he doesn't only work 4 hours. I know, that. I'm like, dude, it's not the point.
Right. Yeah, it's the literal interpretation of the title.
Yeah.
It kills me, but you know what? It's a good thing because I know that I have to walk the walk.
Yeah, no, it's true. I mean, a lot of the work that I've done in my career has been around trying to create certain kinds of accountabilities.
Yeah, and this is
publicly
really important. It's not hard to make the changes. Let me rephrase that. It's not complicated to make the changes you want to make if you set it up properly. And the setup is key, and that is the part that I think is missing from most of the books out there in the fitness and diet world. They say, here's the best prescription. Guess what? The prescription does not matter if you don't set up consequences, if you don't set up accountability, and that's really easy to do.
Yeah.
So that, I think, is one thing that will help people to overcome a lot of areas that they failed, where they've failed before.
So are you doing anything at 4hourbody.com? That are there going to be communities, forums, places for people to connect, discuss, post pictures, etc.?
Yeah, there will be. I'm not going to be doing that. I'm not going to be managing that myself. Coming back to my lack of back end, which is something I do get a lot of criticism from my business friends for, but
not for me.
No.
Not for me.
Not say from you.
Yeah, no. I mean, I think if I could just write books, then that's it. I think it would be great.
Yeah. So I have. There are a number of companies I know very well. DailyBurn.com is one of them. I used to be an advisor to Daily Burn. They were bought by IAC. dailyburn.com, bodybuilding.com, and they have very sophisticated forums where people can post before and after photographs, where they can put in their meal and it'll tell them the breakdown of carbohydrates, protein, fat. It's very, very easy. You can post photographs. So I will be driving people to those two sites and then hosting a competition. This is actually the first time I've announced this.
Oh, cool.
So nobody's heard this. I'll be announcing a competition on January 1 where people will have the chance to join these communities. Even if you're by yourself and you don't have anyone else to keep you accountable, you will be able to go to these places and find a group to join, and they'll keep you accountable.
And what's the competition like, and what can you win? Because I hear competition, I'm thinking I can go back to 160 in 50 days. All natural too.
Yeah. There will be. I haven't. I'm keeping some of the details quiet for now, but the prizes will be ridiculous. Very, very ridiculous. And I'm known for pretty ridiculous prizes.
You are. And ridiculous translates to good, by the way. For those,
right. Yeah. This is California speak for good.
Yeah.
And the actual mechanisms, I'm still refining that for the time being. I want to make sure that it's not just 10 people who end up winning prizes who experience huge changes. I really want it to be the highest percentage of people who join. So I'm in the process of tweaking that. And to give you an idea of the type of people I go to for that type of thing, it's not necessarily the nutritionists, although they have a lot of value to add. I'm going to game designers.
Yeah.
So I'm going to people who are designing games like World of Warcraft. They know how to get people to do things.
Yeah.
And I'm talking to those types of people to try to make it as fail-proof as possible. So we'll see how it goes. That's
cool. So just in wrapping up, is there anything else that that you want to share to put a framework around this for the people before they go out and get the copy of the book?
I would just say that small changes work. And everything in this book went through me first. So I based everything either on the science or on old wives' tales or something like that. I tried it. I measured everything. If it didn't work for me, or on me rather, it didn't make it to the next step. The next step was testing it on women, men, people over 60, and we're talking about mothers of 2, mothers of 3, etc. If it worked on a very high percentage of all of those people, then it made it into the book. So everything has been field tested. The last thing I would say is that if you're not in a financial position to get the book for whatever reason, I think it's only $14 or $15 on Amazon, so it's not that expensive. But if you're not in a position, there is a lot of content on 4hourblog.com, F-O-U-R, 4-Hour Blog. You can find certain examples of things I've written in the past to get a taste of things. And then if people are interested, I do have an offer that is a bit unique. So about 100 pages were cut from this book, which is hard to believe. It's a big book. But it was good content, but the publisher didn't want to spend more on printing because it's a big book already. So if people buy 3 copies of the book, it makes a very good Christmas gift, and send the receipt to port, P-O-R-T, at 4hourbody.com, all spelled out. And that is not your email address, so people shouldn't think that. Don't send any love letters to me.
And it's not Port Lee at 4 Hour.
No, it's not Port Lee. It's port at 4hourbody, F-O-U-R, all spelled out. So port at 4hourbody.com. If you send an Amazon receipt for $3 to that email, then I'm happy to send you one of the lost chapters. So one of the good chapters that didn't make it into the book, and they all have some pretty cool how-to stuff in them. So
yeah, and I know it sounds cliche, but it is holiday times, and this is a wonderful book to get for somebody around the holidays, right? Because this is often when we start thinking about these issues.
Yeah, and another reason, just from a marketing standpoint, another reason, besides keeping it interesting for me to write, that I put so many topics in this book, it was to make the book a gift that was not embarrassing for someone to receive. So if it's a book, How to Lose 30 Pounds in 30 Days, you can't, it's hard to give that to your girlfriend or to give that to your father or something like that. That's hard. Right. But if it's a choose your own adventure book, choose your own adventure guide to the human body, it's really easy to give that to people and they don't get offended. So another thought. Absolutely.
Again, because we've been, focusing, as I think many people will, on some of the weight loss issues, but you cover injury prevention, becoming superhuman, all sorts of, as we said before, the female orgasm, which, of course,
that's going to be a big one.
That's going to be a big one. No, no pun intended. So you do cover it all. So look, just the last thing I'll say is this: I've known you since 2007 now, and I remember the first time I met you, you called me up and did one of those like, hey, I've got this book coming out. I have one question that I've been, looking for the answer for. I think I've got a good, but I'd love your opinion, I'm like, okay. So we ended up talking for 45 minutes, of course. I'm like, oh, dude, I got to introduce you to you're great at that. People love you. You have a way of being that's very, very attractive, and it's fun because you're part meathead, part geek, which is very unusual. This is true. So Silicon Valley takes to you, and the guys in the gym, I'm sure, take to you too. So I expected a lot with this book, and everybody is expecting a lot.
Yep.
But it by far exceeded my expectations. And when I say I expected a lot, I expected a lot. And just like you, I don't probably get as many as you, but I get probably 3 books a day. Please read this. And this totally blew me away. I mean, I know that you're a little OCD, but oh my God.
Yeah. It really takes it to a whole different level. When people are like, oh yeah, Tim records his workouts or something like that, I'm like, oh no. You have no idea. I implanted a medical device in my side to track my glucose 24/7 and did 60 pinpricks in my fingers a day just to get the right average. Like, that gives you an idea. But that's so you don't have to do it. And the one thing I did want to add too, because you got me all excited, and I love this stuff. And what I love about it is the joy of discovery. It's being curious, digging in, and finding some really uncommon approach that's small that works. And that joy of discovery is really what I want to convey and impart to people most of all. And if I'm able to do that, then they will be able to make not only the changes in their physical body, but the changes elsewhere that they want to make. So it's hopefully going to be an enjoyable process of discovery for people. I'm
sure it will be. I have no doubt. And just one more time, if they buy 3 books, they can get about 100 pages of bonus material, and that is at port@4hourblog.com.
It is. Okay, so they will get at least one of the lost chapters. So I don't know how long it's going to be, but if they buy 3 copies on Amazon, send the receipt to port@4hourbody.com.
Sorry, 4hourbody.com.
Yep.
I thought before you might have said 4hour blog, so I'll go back and check that. But 4hourbody.com.
I think it's all this 4-hour stuff that gets confusing. If people want to see some samples of my blog posts, they can go to 4hourbblog.com. If they want to send the Amazon receipt, then they should send it to port@4hourbody.com.
Awesome.
This is why I have to write a novel or something next that doesn't have 4 hour in the title.
And maybe you will, about a guy who's trekking through Nepal or something, right?
Exactly.
Cool.
Right.
Well, Tim, thank you. Best of luck. This is going to do great things, and always a pleasure. Thank you so much.
Thanks for having me.